If you want to play the comparison game, play it with yourself, because at least you know yourself. You know what's real. You know how you feel. You know what you're thinking. You know what you're doing. You know the reality.
When you're comparing to other people, you're not only not comparing to the truth, you're also comparing to a context that's different.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, Next Level University weekly live podcast for week number 75. 75
weeks.
Stop playing the comparison game. So we live in a very, very unique time where I can see what Alan is doing on a Saturday night at 7 p.m. All I have to do is check one of his social media feeds. And what that breeds for a lot of people is playing the not enoughness game, playing the comparison game of Alan's crushing it. He has this car, he has a dog, he's got an amazing relationship, he has a new home. Why don't I have those things? Why aren't I where Alan is? And I think if you look, there's a lot of people who are doing really, really well, but you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So if you're playing the comparison game with somebody else, you don't know what you're actually comparing to. So we're going to dive into that today. We'll talk about the social media aspect, but also I'm sure Alan has some deeper points that he will make.
So the very first thing that I want to start on here is basically you do not value your genius zone enough. So when you find yourself when you find yourself comparing to others, what you're not understanding is that you have something called the law of familiarity. So for example, we all have strengths and weaknesses. We're all unique. There's something out there that comes really easy to you. I was talking to Kevin earlier in the studio. I've been running a mile a day lately. And for me, running's always been really easy. I'm an ectomorph. I'm tall and naturally skinny. I've bodybuilded, so I've put some size on. But generally, running has always come really easy to me. Also, swimming as well. Whereas bodybuilding, I'm actually, if you look at pictures of me back in high school, I was very tall and lanky. So bodybuilding is not necessarily something that's in my genius zone. I still love it and I still do it, but I'm not necessarily going to be a world-class bodybuilder. Whereas someone else who's like Kevin, who's shorter and more compact, he is able to bodybuild genetically more effectively than me. So you have to understand your genius zone. You have to understand your natural strengths and weaknesses. You don't want to compare your weakness to someone else's strength. Right? If Kevin and I were to run around a track, we've done this, it won't be close. It wasn't close. Just like if we go to the gym together, he's stronger than I am. Right? That doesn't mean I can't work to get stronger. That doesn't mean he can't work to get faster. It just means we have to understand that comparison is not apples to apples. And that's my first point. You don't understand your genius zone. I'll give you one more example. So the amazing Amy, you've all heard about Amy many, many times. Amy Diaz.
Hold on, we're going to show her. We'll bring her
Let's
up.
bring her on.
Hold on, let's bring her.
Amy doesn't even know this is
so
happening.
You guys can see her. Hold on.
Bring her on.
She's like, no, please don't. Boom.
There's Amy. Okay, so we're talking about Amy. That's Amy. She's basically famous at this point. No, I'm just kidding. So this is what I want to say. So Amy, you know this. Growing up, you were always told, Amy's so nice. Amy's so nice. And that's a wonderful thing, a wonderful quality that I think she undervalued for a long time. And now she works on the NLU team, and she's an assistant of mine. And so if you've ever DM'd me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn, you've probably talked to Amy. Amy handles my DMs. And now being nice, which she didn't consider a superpower, is actually her superpower now that she's in a position to where that's super valued. Amy's super warm and loving. She's less intimidating than I am, so people are more likely to reach out. Right? So in the right position with that strength, it's an opportunity for her to flourish at a whole nother level. So when you're comparing to other people, that's my point. It is not apples to apples. It's apples and oranges. Apples are supposed to be apples. Oranges are supposed to be oranges. Make sure you put yourself in a position in your genius zone and be careful not to compare someone else's strengths to your weakness.
What is your preference? Apples or oranges?
Oh, that's hard. Apples, because less work.
Less work. I respect that.
What about you?
The texture of oranges really gets me.
You don't
freaks me out. No, it freaks me out. Honestly,
it's just a pain to peel them.
I won't.
Honestly.
I don't like the texture
at all.
Soggy.
Yeah,
it's a huge concern for me. So I was on a podcast this morning. What was it? 10? No, 11, because you had to be late to the studio because I was on a podcast.
Yes.
And we were talking about social media. That's something I talk about a lot, is the fact that social media is a highlight reel. So even this studio, I want to take you guys behind the scenes because I think that's important. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons we have this studio, yes, it's amazing to have a behind the scenes place where we can do work. It's private, it's quiet, it's our own little thing. What are you doing over there?
I was gonna show all the like chords.
Oh,
that are
no,
going
it'll be
on
Jeff
that
in
aren't on screen,
But one of the reasons we have this is because this is a highlight. Like, this is one of the highlights that we have. Behind the scenes, Amy can attest to this, some other people can attest to this. Like, everything that's not in camera view is a mess. We have 10 giant jugs of water. We have curtains. We have lights. There's cords all over the place.
7 whiteboards.
We have many whiteboards. We have a mini fridge and a coffee maker and all that happy jazz. But what you see is the highlight reel. And that's the beauty of social media, is you can show the best parts of you. But there's also a downside of that. So I was on a show today and they asked me about that. They said, like, what are your thoughts when it comes to that? And I said, well, this is what Alan and I tell our clients. For both the positive and the negative aspect of it. It's not what you know always, it's what you can show. So I might know more than somebody, but if they pull up in a Ferrari, you might compare yourself to that. Or you might compare me to them and say, well, that person must know more. They have a Ferrari. And I think at the end of the day, part of it too is also the level of awareness that you have. So I had a client who has 150,000 podcast downloads, a very, very successful show. And she would see other people posting their content. She would hear other people talking about their podcast, and she assumed that she wasn't as successful. When in reality, she's actually way more successful than they are. But she's playing the comparison game of, well, it doesn't look that way, and it's not like the way they talk about their shows. That's a game that you can never win because you don't know somebody else's truth. So understand this. Having a large following, which a lot of people are playing for, at this point, influence is like money. Influence is a new currency. But you have to understand that there's a lot of people out there who are millionaires who are miserable. It's like that with social media too. There's a lot of people who have a lot of followers. They have a lot of influence, but influence does not equal happiness. It does not equal fulfillment. It does not equal joy. So if you're comparing to a number, you're not comparing to a human being. And even that's a dangerous game too. But you're basing what you assume their feelings are based on their level of success. And we don't know what their level of success actually is. So if you're doing that, it's a losing game. And that's a lot what we're going to talk about today is if you're comparing yourself to somebody else, you don't know the truth. So you can't actually compare reality to reality. And I know Alan's I think you're going to positively frame comparison in one of your points.
The point that I want to go to this time is you assume happiness because it's all you are seeing. Again, I'll say that again. You assume someone else is happy because it's all you're seeing. And I'll give you an example of this. We've all been guilty of this at times. I remember when my ex-girlfriend graduated from nursing school, there was a big celebration at Jillian's in Worcester. We're actually not far from there now. The studio's in Worcester. It used to be right on the corner.
It's not there anymore.
Yeah, they closed it down. But anyway, so this is like several years ago. I want to say this is 2015, I think. And I remember I was in such a bad place in my life. I was so unhappy that I actually ended up not wanting to go. And I got there and I wanted to support my girlfriend at the time. And I drank 2 nips in the parking lot. It actually might have been 3 because I was kind of numbing what I was going through. And I wanted to kind of just show up and celebrate her. I didn't want to make it about me because I was having a bad day. So what did I do? Instead of deal with my emotional challenges, I numbed them and then went and partied. See, if you had seen me that night, you would have thought I had it all. You'd have thought I was the happiest person in the world, when in reality, I was very unfulfilled. Okay? And what's fascinating is that now I'm the most fulfilled that I've ever been in my real life, and there's not a lot of show. I don't have to put on a show. I don't drink nips before going to a barbecue. I don't have to pretend to be happy to anyone because I just get to be me because I actually am fulfilled. And so when you're comparing to other people, you do not understand. All of us remember that couple that looked so happy and then we were so blown away when they got divorced or they split up. It's like, oh my God, they looked so happy on social media. Again, you're seeing a rolling theme here, right? You're not seeing the lack of fulfillment behind the scenes. Sometimes that show is actually an indicator that they're not that happy. And of course, there are some people that are as happy as they look. But like that's the exception, not the rule. And so everyone think back to their own life when they were putting on a show. Be honest with yourself. Just like I did. I just admitted it. Everyone thought I was happy as hell and super vibrant and energetic, when in reality I had to take shots in the parking lot to do that. because it made it easier to put on that show because I wasn't really happy. I had to numb the pain to appear happy. One last story as well. I had quit drinking at this point. I think this was in 2018, and I went to one of my old friends' 30th birthdays. We went to middle school together, high school together. It was actually Kaylee Bouchard. And I remember coming to this bar, and I wasn't drinking at this point, and it was late night. I think it was in Milford, and it's like 2 a.m. and last call happened, and I remember looking around, and this was a Friday night. I remember looking around the bar, and it looked like everyone was so happy. And I had this moment with myself where I was like, this is such a moment of clarity for me, because everyone, you know that last song at last call when everyone's like drunk and everyone's just loving on each other? I remember looking around the bar going, this is the best part of everyone here's week. Not from a judgmental place. I was there too. Okay, and I've been there, so I'm not judging people. But I remember thinking to myself, I would love to see all these same people tomorrow hungover versus right now appearing so happy. I would love to see all these people on Monday when they go to their jobs and see if they're still just as happy as they are right now. What if that thing I'm seeing, the only time I'm seeing them, what if that's their escape? What if that's the one time during the week when they actually are happy? Really intense example, Robin Williams. Right? We can all think of someone who appeared really happy to the outside world, when in reality they were deeply unfulfilled and troubled. When I was younger, there was a kid we knew that committed suicide at a very young age, and he looked like such a happy person, and everyone was like, I don't get it, I don't understand. Like, he was so happy. What if that's a show? This is about comparison. Stop comparing, especially on social media. You do not know someone's real life. You do not know their real truth unless you're very, very close friends with them and actually are behind the scenes. I can tell you some people that I know who I know very deeply well, and I know their real life deeply well, and they are so fulfilled. And believe it or not, they're barely on social media. Okay? And then I know some people who are the opposite. They are deeply unfulfilled, absolutely struggling, and they are constantly on social media. So just understand that what you're comparing to, you got to be careful. You're not comparing to the truth. And even if you are, it's a fraction of the truth. Okay? Remember, the selfie the night before looking super happy is not the same as waking up hungover. And I've been both people. And I know each and every one of you probably have in your own regard, even if it wasn't with alcohol.
Alan and I have talked about this a bunch. When Alan and I reconnected, I was into fitness heavily. I had a great job. I had a beautiful girlfriend, a sports car. Like, I had all of the results that any 25 or 24-year-old man, or 26, I don't remember how old I was at that point. But I remember Alan said recently, like, I used to think you were such a badass. I thought you were such a badass, and I thought you were super, super confident. Not, like, most people are not nearly as confident as you think they are. And that's a whole nother thing when it comes to comparison is you might see somebody and say, like, I wish I could be that confident. I wish I could be as confident as that person. But what if that person is doing the thing that they feel the most confident doing? If you've ever seen me in the gym, I'm a completely different person than I am when I'm grocery shopping. And you guys see us here. When Alan and I are in front of the microphones, that's one of the times that you and I are both most confident.
Oh, yeah.
We've done this so many times. We have the reps. Alan and I were interviewed on a podcast, and we said, hey, this is awesome. Like, we love this. Can we record this? And we're going to repurpose it as an episode. And this person, this young lady said, yeah, that's totally cool. Amazing interview. It was awesome. One of the best we've ever had. We get to the end, and she said, honestly, can you guys not use the video aspect of it? I'm just not super comfortable with it. Now, this person is a model. So this person was not confident in that moment, whether it was the weight, the makeup, or maybe she just didn't get ready like she normally would. She didn't feel as confident as you would think seeing her on social media. On social media, you would look at her and say, this is the most confident human being in the world. I've told this story before of, we had somebody that was listening to the show and they reached out to me. And again, I have nothing but love for all these people, but I do think it's important to use their example to help you if you're watching or listening.
Anonymously,
always. they reached out to me and they said, hey, I love the show. I love what you guys are doing. And you guys know, I said like, hey, what can we help you with? What are you going through? What's life like? And this person said, honestly, I'm just all over the place. I'm trying to figure out where happiness and fulfillment is for me. Now, bear in mind, this person every single weekend is out partying on a boat or at the beach or in front of the sunset or at this concert, living up life. And if you saw that story, if you saw that social media, you would assume this person is the most confident, the most fulfilled, and has everything together. Nobody has it all figured out. Most humans are not as confident as they look. And I think it's because, in a weird way, you want to look as confident as humanly possible. You don't want people to know what you're really thinking, especially if it's negative. Alan and I have both had many pictures of us shirtless on the interwebs, because you did fitness modeling, I did bodybuilding, you've done fitness shows as well. What people don't know, or some people do, is I might take 25 pictures and I'm going to post the one where I look the best, right? That's me making sure that it's the most polished product that people are comparing to. So I think it's just important to understand that. I'm guilty of this in the past. Alan's guilty of this in the past. Our goal here is to pull back the curtain on like, look, most people are playing this game. Most people are playing the perception game. And if you don't realize that and you're not playing the same game, you're always going to feel like you're losing. And it's based on false data. It's based on unrealistic expectations that people aren't actually showing their lives. They're showing the best parts of their lives.
This person that Kevin was mentioning when we first got on the interview, it was actually an interview to write an article on us. And we said, hey, like, let's actually make this a podcast. Let's do it. And this person, again, if you went on her Instagram page, and we'll keep it anonymous always, you would think she was the most beautiful, most confident person in the world. I know Kevin mentioned that, but to a drastic extent. I mean, like, one of the most beautiful, supermodel looking people in the world with the most professional photography, the best everything. And this person, literally, when we said, like, let's record it on video, she was like, very, like, I can't, I have my glasses, I don't have my makeup on, like, and in my head, it's like, interesting. Is it really about the content? Right? Like, I dress nice on purpose because, I'm a business consultant, and I think you have to sort of dress the part for people to perceive you that way. But, like, I'm not going to not jump on the mic, and you're not going to not be able to. I mean, sometimes we're in sweats and stuff, like, yeah. Especially early on, which in hindsight was actually a mistake because it's poor marketing. But this idea that you can't even be on camera unless you're dolled up. There's a lot of people out there that are pretending that they are just like, oh yeah, totally. I'll show up in sweats. That's not true. Especially when you go to their page. You go to the YouTube, there's some YouTubers out there that literally every video, they can't not have makeup on. And they're teaching people how to be more confident. I want you to really think about this for a second. Kevin and I want to pull back the curtain on the truth. There are some people that appear to be the most confident people you have ever seen in your life. And quite frankly, behind the scenes, they are not confident at all. As a matter of fact, the fact that they're portraying confidence might actually be proof that they're not actually confident. They might be overcorrecting the other way. There are some people that are just like, honestly, I'm not confident. I'm just not confident. I'm working to get more confident, but I'm not that confident. I want to get more. There's other people that like think they are and pretend they are, but then when they have an opportunity to be on camera and an opportunity to be on our show, you would have thought this person was the most confident person in the world. When she has an opportunity to be on our show, it's like, oh no, I'm not ready for that. I can't possibly do that if it's going to be on camera. And just understand that, right? Real character traits. And I'll get off this in a second, but I was on a podcast recently, and this person asked me, this is actually a question I've started getting a lot, which I love. What does it mean to be next level? And I say this on the podcast. I probably have said this on these live podcasts. This is my only answer now. This is the only way I can answer it anymore. Who are you when no one's watching? Are you actually confident? Real, non-inflated, genuine self-confidence? Are you actually hardworking? Not when people are watching, not when the game's on the line, not when you're pressured by your boss. I mean in your real, tangible life. When you can succeed in private by yourself, with your own self-worth, with your own self-esteem, with your own self-confidence, with your own self-discipline, that's when you won't have to put on a show. And like I used to put on the show, Nips in the parking lot, I'm guilty of it too. I'm not making her wrong. I'm saying stop comparing to people that you think have it all, because trust me, they do not. They don't. There is only one way to be next level, and it's actually doing the work behind the scenes when no one's watching. I genuinely care more about working out alone with Emilia and how much effort I put in there by myself when no one's watching than I do right now on this podcast. I care more about the fact that I did my mobility and I did my morning routine today and I did some laundry. I care about that more, how I operate in my real life, than any of the highlight stuff. I swear to God. And that's the cool part. When you're successful and fulfilled in your real life, you don't have to put on a show. You can just be yourself. And again, I've not always been there, so I'm not judging people, but when you try to get there, when your real life is actually better, when the product is actually the product, mind, body, heart, and soul, when the product is actually better than the packaging, that's a whole new life. And then you won't end up comparing. You won't need to compare. You're fulfilled. Fulfilled people are just doing their thing. They're not concerned about what The Rock is doing and, oh my God, like this person bought this home, and your life is so good that you don't need to do that. So let's get real with each other. Let's get real with ourselves. Like, are we playing this comparison game, and is it a losing game that we're never going to win? Because I think it is.
Hi, my name is David London, and I'm the host of the Deskbound Therapy podcast. I've been working with Alan and Kevin for the last 2 months with both business coaching and podcast coaching, and I've seen tremendous value and growth, not only in my business, but in my personal life and in my relationships, because their coaching has taught me to focus on so much more than just the business itself. It's really helped me level up, and every time things are going well, they really continually push me to reach the next level, and I definitely recommend working with them. They're such great people to work together. I have both met them personally, in person at a live event, and gotten the opportunity to work with them closely online and communicate with them. And I listen to the podcast every day, so I definitely recommend checking out the podcast. Check out their business coaching or their, even just life coaching if you want to level up your mindset and your game and just be happier and healthier. Definitely recommend both Alan and Kevin at Next Level University.
And most people, so there's two things I just want to touch on what Alan said. One, I think we all, like he said, we've been guilty of this in some way, shape, or form, but the goal was to close that gap a little bit by getting out of your comfort zone and saying, like, yeah, I could like I need a haircut desperately. That's why I'm wearing a hat, right? But it's like, I'm not going to not show up. Looks like I have a toupee on under here. I also had this massive zit on my chin the other day. But again, I've done this 750 times or almost 800 between us and other interviews. So Alan and I are very conditioned to just show up regardless of what we look like. That's a muscle that other people have to flex, but it's also important to do the work. Like, what is the work that it will take for you to feel confident? And if you want to compare yourself, you can compare yourself to, well, I don't look as good as I do with makeup on, but this is a good opportunity for me to get out of my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. I think that's a very important distinction. The closer you get to somebody, the closer you get to the truth. Oftentimes, you don't get close enough to know the truth, right? I don't know what Selena Gomez is like in real life. I assume she's probably pretty cool. She seems pretty cool. I don't know what Eminem is like in real life. I love him. One of my favorite rappers out there. I don't know what he's like in real life. Will I ever get close enough to know? Don't know. So I'm always going to be playing on what my assumptions are about people. So there's two types of people. People that you get close to and you're impressed by. People you get close to and you're depressed by. And if you're playing the perception game or you're following somebody who is, if you ever get close enough to them, which is pretty rare, you'll figure out very quickly, like, has all of this comparison that I've been putting in actually constructive?
Right.
Is it based on truth? And even if it is, it's still a game. Like Alan said, we want to try to limit as much as we can unless it's all constructive. And we'll talk a little bit about that.
So that actually leads me to my next point. You are not understanding the context. I'll explain. I remember I was at a Taylor Swift concert several years ago. T-Swift. And seems like a wonderful human. But again, I don't actually know her personally. I hope at some point I will. We'll interview her maybe. But 60,000 people, Foxborough Stadium or Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. And I'm up in the top, and we all have these little lights on us, and the concert kind of goes with the lights. It was very cool, very cool. I remember I went up to get concession and to get some food. I was hungry, and I remember looking from the very top down, and she was like walking through the middle, and she was up on the Jumbotron as well, and she ended up picking up a kid who it was like the best day of that kid's life. And everyone is there to see Taylor Swift. Everyone came and paid money and invested their time to drive there and park and get there. Like, Taylor Swift is being valued in that moment at a level 10,000, right? Fast forward later that summer, and my Aunt Joanne, she's a mentor of mine, she, for my mom and pop-ups, my grandparents' 60th anniversary, she rented out a huge oceanfront property for a whole week for our entire family, my dad's side, my birth father's side. And Taylor Swift, it's in Westerly, Rhode Island, and Taylor Swift's mansion was right down the beach. And basically, we were walking down the beach. I remember I was with my sister and her boyfriend, and I remember thinking to myself, like, if I ended up seeing Taylor Swift, how different it would have been than, like, her at that concert. Because, like, I probably would have been like, hey, Taylor, how's it going? And maybe we would have had a conversation or, like, a hi, but she's still just a person. Whereas during the concert, that's why everyone's there. See, Taylor Swift in a 60,000 fan stadium of all Taylor Swift fans is very different than Taylor Swift on the beach. I might not even have recognized her. And again, it's contextual. Value is contextual. If you own a brick and mortar business and you're struggling to bring it online, I'm a lot more valuable to you than if you need your car fixed.
Don't bring it to Alan.
Don't bring it to me. I genuinely can't fix it. I suck at cars. I don't know anything. So remember, when you're playing comparison, you're also comparing based on contextual things. I remember we have a team member from Italy, Alessandro. Awesome. Huge shout out. And he's like, dude, Alan, no one knows who Tom Brady is in Italy. Nobody cares. Like, not only do they not like American football, but they don't know who Tom Brady is, right? And I reference him all the time. And we have a global show, so I got to get better at that. But just because he's a hero of mine, because of his consistency and discipline and work ethic and mastery, doesn't mean he's a hero of everyone else's. So imagine Tom Brady giving a speech in Italy about American football. You're going to see that and not be jealous. As a matter of fact, he'd probably get fruit thrown at him. Now imagine that in Boston, Massachusetts, where he won 6 of his 7 Super Bowls in New England, giving a speech on American football and work ethic. He's going to be so valued. Just remember, when you're comparing to other people, you're not only not comparing to the truth, you're also comparing to a context that's different. When they go back to their real life, trust me, their family and friends, like Taylor Swift's close family, they're not like, oh my God, Taylor, right? They're like, Taylor, what's happening? Right? It's just understand that. It's the law of familiarity, and you're seeing them in a specific context. Don't compare Taylor Swift's concert with 60,000 people that it took her 14 years to get to your regular life. Big mistake. Big mistake.
Alan just spoke to this. You're also, if you're comparing to a blip in time. You're comparing to a moment in this person's journey. So we shout out to the one and only Evan Carmichael. If you guys don't know him, look him up on YouTube. He is one of the most successful YouTubers in the self-improvement, personal development space. But back when we were the Hyper-Conscious podcast,
Oh, yeah?
we were on an Instagram live with him, and he said, like, what is the name of your podcast again? Like, you guys are awesome, but I don't even remember the name of your show. Like, it's probably time for you guys to rebrand. That's actually one of the reasons we rebranded. But I have a... Oh, yes, take it easy with the mouse. You're going to Jeff this whole thing.
Look at
the Hyper-Conscious podcast.
Throwback.
Oh, man.
To those of you not on video, I'm showing the Hyper-Conscious podcast mouse pad. We are cartoon characters.
In NLU.
We wonder why people didn't take us seriously. We were cartoons.
And we sucked. So I have something that Evan Carmichael put up, and this is his YouTube subscriber by year. I don't know if you can see that. Definitely not. Awesome.
Yeah, definitely not.
So in 2009, he had 57 subscribers. 2010, 145. 2011, 495. 2012, 966. 2013, 3,600. 2014, 14,000. 2015, 99,000. 2016, 400,000. 2017, 850,000. 2018, 1.54 million. Then the next year, 2.54 million. And then 2021, he had 3.1 million. If you're looking at somebody's success in a blip of time, so think of it this way. We have been on YouTube for 4 years, okay? 4 years in, 1, 2, 3, 4, Evan Carmichael had 966 subscribers. I think we have 546 subscribers. But
Please subscribe.
But Evan Carmichael also didn't have a podcast that had hundreds of thousands of downloads.
Right.
So in a weird way, if we want to play the comparison game, now that we have the awareness, we're actually kind of ahead of where Evan Carmichael was at our point, which is great, but we don't want to play that comparison game because we're playing a different game. But if you just started your YouTube channel last year, one of the most prolific YouTubers in the world only had 57 subscribers his first year. And that just goes back to, if you're focused on a blip in time, if you were to look back in my old pictures, I was genuinely in better shape than I am now. I was leaner because I was more focused on that. And I also took more pictures of my body because that's what I was doing. I was doing bodybuilding, right? So understand that if you're a year into your journey and you're comparing to somebody who is 15 years in, you're naturally going to feel bad about yourself. If you just started a podcast yesterday and you're comparing to us who have made more mistakes over the 4.5 years that we've been doing this than you have yet, that's why we have results that you don't. We've just made more mistakes. Going back to the point I made earlier, and I really want you to think about this. My client who had 150,000 podcast downloads, which is great. Like, that's top 1%. Most people don't get there.
Top 1%.
Yes.
Of all podcasts, by the way, there's 2.6 million podcasts.
Yes.
150,000 listens total is top 1% of that.
Yes. The awareness of not, in a weird way, she compared herself, but she didn't compare herself to what was real. She compared herself to the perception. Where if she compared herself to what was real, she'd realize very quickly, wow, my show is actually way more successful than I thought it was.
How long has she been doing it? It was only a couple of years, right?
I think 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Right.
And she's crushing it. She's doing an amazing job. And it was just that reframe of, from a higher level of awareness, I need you to know you're actually doing really, really well. Like, stop comparing yourself to falsities and start comparing yourself to what is real. Because comparing yourself to what is real gives you a good target to shoot for. Comparing yourself to what other people want you to see is probably not the play. So Evan Carmichael gets a free segment in the NLU live podcast.
Dear friend and mentor of ours as well, coached us. Thank you, Evan, for the rebrand. Next Level You, he was the one who was like, yo, Hyperconscious needs to go.
What are you doing? Are you going to soliloquy?
Yeah, a little soliloquy. It's not a soliloquy.
Damn.
So I told Kevin that I wanted to do something really special on this. Oh my God, I'm dropping stuff. Really special on this episode. And I want to make sure he has time for his last point. So I'm going to do it now because we only have 5 minutes left. So my last point was this. You do not realize what comes with it. So when you're comparing your success or your lifestyle or your life to someone else's lifestyle or their life, not only are you not comparing to their reality, not only are you not understanding the long-term compound effect of the fact that that's just one snapshot in time, and not only are you comparing their context of being valued and what they're showing you to your real life, but on top of that, you also don't understand what goes into it. And what I mean by that is people are rewarded in public for what they practice for years, often decades, in private. Evan Carmichael posted 3 videos a day, every day. Think about that for a second.
Forever.
It's hard to post on social media once a day. Never mind a YouTube video every day. 3 YouTube videos every day. It's unreal. Most consistent person ever. But now it's like 3 million subscribers. Sounds awesome, is awesome, but do you really want what comes with that? So what I want to share that I think is really special is I have something called my Purpose Macro Dashboard. And basically it's a Google spreadsheet where I track all my critical numbers. So I've reverse engineered my mission, my purpose prayer. We've reverse engineered our goals, trying to have the most successful, holistic self-improvement podcast in history. Those are big goals. But what matters to me more and to Kevin more is our character, our integrity, our consistency, our reliability, our desire to serve the listeners. And so what I want to do is take you behind the scenes. It's not about us, but we have to use examples of us. So I'm going to use just me. Okay? If you want to have a successful podcast, and this is just, think about anything, any dream you have, okay? Any dream you have, singer, songwriter, writer, podcaster, whatever it is, athlete, you name it. This is my point. You do not realize what comes with it. So I'm going to show you what has come with the success we've had. Almost 500,000 listens globally, 100 plus countries. Awesome. Love it. 35 plus clients. Amazing. Multiple departments, 11-person global team. Amazing. That is not what matters to us. What matters to us is the work that I'm going to share with you right here. And again, this is just me. Obviously, Kevin's work is
No love for the kid.
is in addition to this. These are my critical numbers. Number 1, podcasts. I've been on 735 podcasts between ours and other shows. Now, these live podcasts I don't count. I count those as actually speeches because that's just how I do it. Number 2, NLU team huddles. 573 times I met face-to-face with an NLU team member or on the phone. Coaching and consulting sessions, 852. So yeah, all this success is nice. It's amazing. I love it. But 852 hours helping coach and consult an individual. 852 hours. And by the way, a lot of those were more than hours because I struggle to stay on time, as we know. Speeches, 124 times getting up in front of a room, either virtually or in person. 124. Traveling, all that. Millionaire mentor meetings, 143 times, belly to belly, face to face, virtually or in person with a millionaire. 143 hours. Mastermind sessions. We used to mastermind with Eddie Pinero, Mark Metry, all the masterminding with Kevin, myself, lots of other people. 320 times sitting there talking about success, how to be more successful, how to serve at a greater level, how to master our craft. 320 hours. Networking events, 16, a whopping 16.
We're Jeffing on that.
Yeah.
But I've taken over the helm on that, so that number will go up.
We're going to one soon in Florida.
Yes.
Yeah. Photo shoots. This is back when I did fitness modeling, but obviously in terms of content creation, photo shoots, 40. 40 times self-conscious in front of a camera with a different photographer, not all different photographers, but some of them were different. Traveling, 40 times in front of the camera, looking at the photos going, wow, I'm not as lean as I thought I was. Okay? Quality time and growth experiences with Emilia, 649. 649 times. And again, these are my critical numbers. These are the things I'm more focused on. The lifestyle and the success and the travel and all that and the followers, it's all a byproduct of the work. This is the work. This is my work. And then the last and most important one, in my opinion, is number of days alcohol-free, which is 794. If I didn't do alcohol-free for 794 days, there's no possibility we would be as successful as we are right now. I care more about what we're doing behind the scenes when no one's watching than I do about all the success. And that's why we'll have success. And if you can learn that and be patient and stop comparing to other people's highlight reel and start really focusing on your own life, everything will change for you.
And think about it this way. It would be very easy, and maybe you're doing this right now, right, after hearing that. And when I saw you open it up, I knew what it was going to be. So I saw the PMDB critical numbers.
Perfect. Purpose macro dashboard.
It gave it away. You might be thinking right now, playing the comparison game with like, oh, I can't believe he did all those things. Like, I've definitely been victim of that in the past, but I also realize Alan and I are different human beings. And I think that's an important distinction of like, you can't compare yourself to somebody else when they're doing things a completely different way. Alan's a very strategic person. If you watch or listen to us, you know I kind of wing some things, and I'm just a different person. I'm the funny guy. Alan's the serious guy. I'm the jacked guy. Alan's just pretty, he kind of lifts weights every once in a while, you know? So it's just, it's not fair to yourself to compare yourself to somebody who's playing a different game than you. And that's a great lesson for me. And I've learned that over the years of working with Alan and getting to interview amazing people, world-class people, multi-millionaires, people who are changing the world. If you compare yourself to those people, not on yourself, not to yourself, you're going to be playing a losing game. So the last point before we hop into the Q&A, Alan and I are blessed because we have 725 times to look back and compare ourselves to ourselves. If you are falling victim to comparing yourself to other people, tonight before you go to bed, whenever, tomorrow morning, whenever, this weekend, whenever you have time, take out your phone and record a video or an audio of where you are in your life. What are you doing right now? What are you excited about? What are you not excited about? What's the best thing about your life? What's the thing you're struggling with? How confident are you? Just give yourself a video diary of what's going on in your life and check in with it in a month, check in with it in another month, do another one, rinse and repeat. We get to look back. I get to look back on my old journals where I said, I will have 5 full-time podcast clients. I was writing that down a year and a half ago. Now Alan and I have 30-something clients. We have the most clients we've ever had, right? Like I have a bunch of people who we produce their podcasts. I'm on calls every day with podcasters. That's amazing. But I might forget how much progress I made if I didn't reflect.
At one point, you didn't even think that would be successful.
No. 2 years ago, it wasn't even a thing.
I remember that first conversation. You were like, I don't think that can work.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, it's wild. Now it's not only working, it's flourishing.
Yeah, it's the biggest part of our business.
Yeah.
It's the biggest part of our business. But I would forget that. I used to write, I am grateful for my amazing relationship long before Taryn and I reconnected. I would forget that. So we have a unique opportunity, a unique perspective to see our content, create your own private content, and study it. Or study your journal, study things you've written, study your memories of how things went. If you want to play the comparison game, play it with yourself because at least you know yourself. You know what's real. You know how you feel. You know what you're thinking. You know what you're doing. You know the reality. And at the end of the day, the only truth you know is yours. You don't really know anybody else's. So if you're comparing to somebody else's, you're not playing a game that you can win.
Let's jump into Q&A. I just want to say one more thing. For anyone who did hear all those critical numbers, understand this. What I'm saying is when you're comparing your life to someone else's success, you're not understanding what it took. You can't want their success without wanting what came with it. That's all I was trying to make a point of like, if you're going to compare, just understand you got to compare to the reality. Everybody wants to be in shape. Not everyone wants 5 a.m. workouts, and that's okay, right? So if you do value anything, last thing. So I was on a podcast and someone was like, oh my God, you're unbelievable at this. Like, holy crap. Like, how do I get on your level? I said, honestly, if you value what I just provided even a little bit, it's just reps. I've done this 800 times, right? 750 times, whatever. It's like, that's all it is. I'm not naturally gifted. And trust me, if you want to be this good, you have to also want to do it that many times and then listen to them and be like, oh, wow. So that's all I'm saying. Don't compare, and if you're gonna, make sure you're comparing to the truth, the behind the scenes. You can't want someone's results and not want what comes with it. So yeah, Q&A.
Turn your must be nice into how they do that. I used to be a must be nice to have the Mercedes, must be nice, and then it went to how did they actually do that? So turning must be nice to curiosity, I think, is a good thing. And I think you have bugs. I have bugs?
Yeah, it's all good.
Well,
you think I
in
what?
front of everybody. I was gonna say you did a good job. I think it was a really good point.
Thank you, man.
And I feel bad about
Thank
myself,
you, brother.
but
No, dude, your numbers are good too, for sure.
Amy, you want to do Q&A?